I'm Steve Botello. Welcome to the show For and About Veterans, Operation Freedom. I'm your host, and our guest today, our very special guest, is Edward Dupass, known as Eddie.
Thank you.
Welcome very much for coming here. I have met you through some of the Virginia services that help veterans. But let's first talk a little bit about you, and then we'll talk about that. Is that okay?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Where are you from? Where'd you grow up at?
Okay. Originally, I'm from, and this is a point of contention with some of the family. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Grew up, raised, spent my formative years Queens, New York. So pretty much New York City, Long Island, that type of area, back and forth. From there, pretty much graduated high school.
Right. Where'd you go to high school at?
High school, Bayside, Queens, New York.
Bayside, okay.
Bayside, Queens.
Now, when you were in high school, at any point in time, did you ever even consider having any contact with the military?
Okay, that's kind of funny because at the time I was in high school, my older brother, come from a family of a lot of people that have been in and out of the military. My older brother was actually a recruiter in New York during the time frame when I was in high school. So it was kind of hilarious. I used to get the recruiters that would call the house, and my brother would have his kit where they gave it to him at recruiting school, and basically for every question there would be a answer by the book. So I would just kind of play along. The guys would call the house on the phone. Hey, can I speak to Edward? And I'm like, okay, yes. And do you know that we can offer you this? But what about this? And I would kind of play with them a little bit on the phone because I kind of knew what was coming along.
That's interesting. So at that time, he was an Army recruiter?
Yes, my brother was an Army recruiter.
Okay. And outside of the recruiting aspect, did you get any other flavor of the military? Did you go to bases? Did you see airplanes, parachutes?
Really, not even close. I mean, I've had relatives in and out the military. My father was an Air Force veteran. My brother, obviously, Army veteran. I had an uncle who was an Army veteran. So we kind of knew, all right, we got relatives in Army, a lot of cousins, you know, different Army. Army was our predominant force.
Okay.
So, you know, it was there, but I never personally considered it at that time.
Okay. So you graduated Bayside.
Yeah.
And then what did you do? Or what did you say to yourself?
At that point, I had gotten accepted to college down in Alabama. One of the great points of that, I was 16 years old when I graduated high school, so I got advanced degree. So I was in college at the age of 16, away from home. Went from New York to Alabama.
Where at in Alabama?
I went to school at Tuskegee University, Tuskegee, Alabama. I guess one of the more famous people out there would be General Chappie James, Air Force, one of the first.
So it was called Tuskegee University?
It was called Tuskegee University when I went there.
All right.
Prior to that, it was known as Tuskegee Institute.
Right.
So historically black college type of thing.
Huh.
So I went down there and had a ball.
And what year was this, roughly?
This was 1986.
Okay, because I went to Jacksonville State in Alabama,
Okay.
in northern Alabama, back in '78.
Okay, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with
yeah.
that.
Good for you. Okay, so you went to school there, and what were you studying, or what did you do?
I was a computer science major, basically, not the computers that we deal with today. These were the old, you know, we got tapes on the wall,
Right.
the whole nine. And while it was a very interesting thing, and that was my thing all during high school, that was my thing. Computers, I was into it. PCs were, you know, the old Tandies and things
Right,
like
and
that.
just barely starting
Barely
that way.
starting,
Right.
and I had an aptitude for it.
Right.
Well, what ended up happening is I went to school down there for it, and I had legacy family. We all went to, one way or another, went to college down
Right.
in Alabama there. And I went to school at the exact same time with a cousin who was the perfect student, 4.0, same major, computer science, real tough act to follow. I wasn't the 4.0 student, so I was pretty good at one course. I had joined ROTC, found it fun. So I had the uniform, doing the drill, the ceremony, so that was kind of fun. But didn't stay in school because of money. I mean, it was you know,
I
pretty
understand.
financially strained on
Right.
my parents. Didn't have scholarships. I was smart, but I wasn't that smart. So pretty much after my sophomore year, I had a different change of different career plan initiated for me.
And that was?
That was basically my mom and dad bought me a one-way ticket from Alabama to New York, back to my brother,
Really?
the recruiter. And I went and stayed with my brother for a little bit because my parents had relocated to Alabama while I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
One-way ticket back. Hey, we can't afford it. He's got to do something. He's not going to sit around the house. Went, visit my brother. He was a recruiter. Had me take the ASVAB. Oh, wow, you got some pretty good ASVAB scores. A couple of months later, came back, finished my semester. Ended up back in New York, shipped out the basic training in 1988.
In 88, you went to basic, okay.
Yeah.
And what field was he pushing you towards?
Well, it was one of the things, my brother he knew my personality, and he said, you know what, I got to get something for my brother where he wasn't going to possibly be in the woods a lot. And be in the thing. So I went in as an administrative specialist, okay? Typewriters, some computer work, you know, initially starting off in that time frame, office clerk, real simple stuff. And the whole goal was, let me spend 4 years, get my GI Bill, college money, go back to school, finish up, and continue on.
So what really happened?
Surprise, ended up going from training. I went to training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, went through administrative training. Once I graduated from all that basic training, my advanced schooling, first duty station, Aschaffenburg, Germany, which was wonderful. I got to go to Germany, but what nobody told me was Aschaffenburg, Germany was home to the 3rd Infantry Division. All-male infantry unit, mechanized infantry. Even though I had been through training, co-ed training, learning through the school, oh, you work in the office? No. Went to an infantry unit, got to the unit. The day I got to the unit, oh, by the way, they're in the field. So you'll be here, they'll be back. Well, how long have they been in the field? Oh, about 30 days so far. It's like, okay.
So okay, forgive me since I'm a Navy guy.
Okay.
Okay. So, though you were assigned office stuff, what was it that they were planning on doing with you?
Well, what ended up happening is what the way the Army was formed, and I'm not going to say formed, but configured at that point in time, you had basically, if you needed an office clerk in an infantry unit, you sent a mail there. So while we worked in the office, while we were in garrison, if we had a combat situation or go into field training for war, because you got to remember, this is during the time frame of the Cold War.
Right.
You got to learn what else to do. So I've learned how to drive, at that point, I learned how to drive Humvees, track vehicles, learned how to fire all sorts of weapons and everything because nobody was typing and filing while we were out in the field.
Okay.
So
And then women weren't allowed to go.
they were in the support unit.
So they stayed
out
back.
the way. Yeah,
Okay.
right, different units.
Different time.
Different time, different goals. And, you know, it was an all-male environment. So that was just, you know, I went from one extreme to another. And then you're talking late 80s. So
Right.
that's that time frame.
Okay, so you're at your first unit. You go through, how long are you there?
Basically, we were there, well, I arrived there in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, and roughly it was around 1990, Desert Storm.
Desert Storm,
Shield.
Desert Shield, yeah.
You know, everything came up. Everybody was in the, everybody was getting notified, sent over from the States. Everybody's mobilizing. And one of the interesting things was it came down closer and closer to when Desert Storm actually kicked off.
Right.
Well, we were in Germany, and I was part of 3rd Infantry Division at that point. And the word came out, it said, and everybody said, well, we will watch Armed Forces Network. That was our one television station that we would watch. And it was kind of fun because they said, you know what? They're getting ready to make an announcement. If they do not announce your unit, you're not deploying from Germany to the theater of operations in Kuwait. Everybody stood up that night. We all sat in there, First Sergeant Commander. Everybody's doing all this great talking, and we were like, okay, no 3rd Infantry Division. We're not going. Oh, man. And a couple of other units from our local area were going. So everybody's kind of got that sigh of relief because we had the old Vietnam vets, you know, and they would tell us all sorts of stories. And in all honesty, young guys, we were scared. We were like, oh my gosh, well, you know, is that what war is like? We don't know. We don't want any parts of that, you know. But, you know, we were there to serve our country, do our thing. And it was interesting because the very next day, we actually had the day off. It was payday holidays, those were the things. And we came back, and then there was a meeting. Said, oh, we wanted to call everybody in. Okay, we were all in. What's the problem? Everybody said, we're going. Like, what do you mean we're going? It's like, you know all the brand new equipment we got? Yes. You remember they said that 1st Armored Division, they had a whole brigade deactivate during that time frame because this was right after the Berlin Wall came down. East and West Germany were reuniting, and everything was getting real, you know,
Yep.
forming into what we have today. And they were like, well, since you guys are fully stocked, got the latest equipment, had the best training, we're attaching you to 1st Armored Division, and you guys leave in about a month to go down to Kuwait. So that was the big surprise, the big whoop whoop. Hey guys, you're getting ready to go into combat. That was like, wow. the shock in the system.
Wow. So then what happened? A month later?
Well, we ended up flew down, got into Kuwait, and it was an interesting experience. I mean, a lot of the documentaries and everything that you would see on TV, I mean, they're pretty much accurate to the point as far as showing how fast it was, how intense things were. I mean, one of the stronger memories that I had is I worked in the S2, which was military intelligence. I was their clerk. I processed security clearances, and I worked and I listened to the radios when the scouts would report back, and, you know, we would brief the reports. And one of the great things about it was when we got down there, it was, you know, you would get everything firsthand. And then, you know, the funny little stories you would get, and you would see stuff, and I would see all the pictures as they became, you know, declassified and things like that. And then you can kind of look back on it now and say, wow, that was kind of, interesting. But then you have a lot of funny stories and a lot of those little combat anecdotes that would happen and things like that. Trying to think of one of the better funny ha-ha stories was we were all sitting in it was early in the morning, everybody's getting ready for their different shifts, and all of a sudden we saw some rounds, you know, basically impact in our area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was just a minor mistake because somebody was doing some rifle training, and it just wasn't marked off completely properly. Nobody was in any danger, but when you had the Vietnam vets at the time who were in charge, they were our senior NCOs and senior officers, I'm not going to, for lack of a better term, all heck broke loose. So you had guys in bath towels who were taking showers, makeshift showers, with their rifles and flip-flops, trying to find out where these rounds were coming from. So that was one of the little funny ha-ha moments that you would kind of look back on and laugh.
Well, yeah, war can be an experience, can it?
Good and bad. Good and
Okay.
bad. Good and bad. But, you know, you look back and you...
So we win the war.
Okay.
We're probably going to have a 2-segment series on you.
Okay.
But because I want to talk about here a little bit later
Okay.
what you're doing now to work with vets.
Okay.
So you finish your tour with this division.
Finished my tour with this division.
Okay.
Pretty much got back, I got notified I was on special assignment. Special assignment was working here in the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. in this area. So ended up getting here, and pretty much I spent a majority of the rest of my career here, off and on. So I came here, went to various units, doing different jobs that counted as change of station moves, but
Right.
they were different organizations.
Still within the same.
Still within the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
Had a little break,
Okay.
went to Korea, then brought right back. So it's just, it was like a little never-ending circle, various types of units, worked with schools, worked with.
Well, let me ask you, and that point in that path of your life, when did you say to yourself, Edward, I might make a career of this? At what point? Because you
Well-
initially said you were only going to go for 4 years.
Okay. After I came back from Desert Storm, got here, like many other service members, met a girl, fell for the girl,
Okay.
got married.
Okay.
Okay. And then what ended up happening, that was my first marriage. Got divorced. And I got married, said, I'm going to stay in for a while. Great support, great benefits, great things. Could still, kind of move on and carry on with things. Got divorced. It was one of those typical soldier stories. I'm a little broke. Got to stay in, get myself back on my feet, and continue on. Well, by that time, I've already reached about 10 years. I was halfway done.
Okay.
And I said to myself at that point, you know what? I'm doing more good here than I am outside, because by that time, you get a little more maturity, you get a little more age on you, and you start seeing what's more important. So I ended up from job to job. I mean, you look at the different jobs I had: classified document custodian, awards and personnel actions. Then I was also an instructor. I taught ROTC at Bowie State University, locally here in Maryland. I taught the freshman and senior course. And at that point, when I got to that part of my career, I changed military occupational skill. And I went from being an administrative specialist, clerk typist, personnel NCO, or whatever you want to call it, and I became a career counselor, which was in charge of recruiting and retention. And that's kind of where it kind of led me a little bit more to what I do now.
Okay.
And okay.
No, don't want to stay on that segment. So you did your career counseling and stayed in that job area, that general job field, for generally, if we can say, the second half of your.
Second half of my career, roughly about the last 7 years of my career. A little bit after. And what it was is pretty much, it gave me an opportunity to talk to the younger soldiers. Because one of the things that I used to have that I liked when I first came in was mentors. And good, bad, or indifferent, there are going to be issues. Somebody's going to get in trouble eventually. And I had my fair share of trouble as a soldier. I was young, and young kids do different things. And being able to pass that information, or being able to stop someone from making the same mistakes that I did, made it a lot easier. More like a big brother,
Right.
Type of thing. And it's so easy to do when you have soldiers under your charge, or people that, work for you or depend on you for advice. They look up to you. So it was kind of easy to do.
Okay, well that comes together. So when did we retire?
We retired in 2008. This was after my second tour in Iraq. I went back for our Operation Iraqi Freedom, OIF. If you remember the news, they had a striker brigade, 172nd Striker Brigade. We spent a year in Mosul, and then another 6 months after being involuntarily extended in Baghdad. With that point, once all that was over, we redeployed. I was stationed in Alaska at that time. We ended up going to negotiate my last assignment, renegotiated to get back here, and retired in 2008, pretty much hung up my boots, called it quits at that point.
Okay, let's talk about Generalities in that time. You knew you were going to retire.
Right.
You had that date in mind, however far out. What did you then begin to do to prepare yourself
As
for your separation?
Okay, as a career counselor, I used to use transitioning out as a tool to keep people in. Okay, what are you prepared? That was one of the questions I used to ask people, ask the future veterans or continued soldiers. Are you prepared to go out there? And with that, I mean, with education, did you find a job? Did you use the resources that you had to, get yourself ready to go to the next stage of your life? Because you had people that retired, you had people that ETS'd after their normal term of service, and then you had people who were involuntarily, separated. So these were all the things that, you had to let them know before they made that decision to, go on to the next chapter, which is life after the military.
Right.
And myself, I wasn't completely prepared myself, even though I used to coach people and tell them to prepare. I always thought I could just jump right into it. I'm going to be okay. I'm a career counselor. I know what's going on. And, I had a little brazen attitude to myself with that. But I also had the mentality and the sense enough to say, wait a minute, I still have a few things I have to do. So I made sure I had my GI Bill. I made sure I had my disability compensation. I made sure that I had all of my ducks in a row to at least initiate all of that before I exited service. And I started my job search long before I got out of service, even though I did a lot of it on my own.
Very good. So you get out, and how long before did you have a guaranteed job before you got out, or are you still looking?
I was actually looking up until 2 months prior to my official retirement date, and I found a position. It was with an IT company here in Northern Virginia, and they brought me on as a recruiter. I worked there as a recruiter, and I actually worked there for about 7 years, up until just recently. And I've worked my way up from just a recruiter to the operations/program manager for
Right.
a number of different federal government contracts that they worked on, and also doing business development and pretty much technical interviews. I pretty much was a man of many hats, and it was increased responsibility because of how I projected myself once I got there, how I kind of gave that little extra when I started working. They had no idea that they were going to get that when they hired me just as a recruiter.
So when you chose, now was there any other positions between there and now?
No, actually,
Okay.
other than, just self-entrepreneurial things
Okay.
that I looked at, prior to that point. Now I'm in a totally different job due to a certain different set of circumstances.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about. So you tell me what your position is right now.
Okay, currently right now I am a local veterans employment representative for the state of Virginia.
Okay. And officially, what does that mean?
Officially, I am an individual that goes out and does informational visits to local businesses and not so local businesses to give them the benefits of hiring a veteran and help them cultivate that understanding as to what a veteran can offer, what their skills translate to, and how that can improve their company. So a lot of times I don't reach out specifically to individual vets,
Mm-hmm.
but I can go to a large company and say, listen, let me talk to you. This is what as a veteran, this is what this type of person will bring to the table and how you can leverage programs and things within the state of Virginia to benefit you and them.
All right. Then I'm going to have you do two things here.
Okay?
First, we're addressing probably 8 to 10,000 viewers right now.
Okay.
Okay. Take 30 seconds and talk to the organizations that can use your services, and they are for free. Is that correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Please take 30 seconds and talk to them.
For many years, your company will go ahead, you'll pay for different resume services, you'll pay for different types of things to find the employees that you need to get the job done. There are numerous services out there that are not free of charge, that cost a pretty penny. They can cost in upwards of $50,000, $60,000. You have resources here within the state of Virginia that will help you find the right candidate out of a pool of veterans who are out there looking for jobs right now, who already have the training, who already have the backgrounds that can meet stringent clearance and background checks. Okay? They also bring a lot of intangibles to the plate. They bring leadership skills that the military, even at the lowest level, spent thousands of dollars on to train these people to not just do their job, but do that extra step to ensure that the job gets done overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the second half, another 30 to 45 seconds, talk to those vets, male and female. What do they need to do? How do they need to do it? And then finish with how they can reach someone like you.
Okay. You have to prepare yourself. You have to understand that even though we do bring these skills to the table, once we exit military service, we are in a situation where we're not starting completely at the bottom. We're now in a new competitive field. We have the experience. Get your education, get your credentials. You can reach out to your local one-stop center, your local Virginia Employment Commission office, and you can find all sorts of resources. We can help you with your resumes. We can help you get enrolled in training to change the career. We can teach you and improve upon the skills that you've gotten as you exited the service on learning how to interview, how to present yourself, how to dress, how to do all these different things to make you just ultra desirable to those employers.
And where can people find you at?
They can find me at the Prince William County Skills Source Center on Minnieville Road. It hurts me because I can't remember the address completely off the thing. They can find me there, but there are also, we have disabled veteran outreach specialists there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a veteran rep. We have workforce service representatives there that can help veterans with all sorts of issues. It's referred to as an unemployment office. It is not an unemployment office, it's an employment office because the resources are there to help and assist you get into the job you need.
Beautiful. Eddie, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come
Anytime.
speak to our viewers. Thank you much for your service to your country. I appreciate
Anytime.
your day.
Thank you very
No
much.
problem. I'm your host, Steve Botello. Thank you very much for watching Operation Freedom, a show for and about veterans here in Prince William County area. Thank you very much for watching.